And you join us as this enormous ceremony, thank you ceremony for everybody involved in the rescue of the 12 boys and their football coach from the Wild Boars football team gets underway, and it's really quite spectacular. You can see here some of the 6,000 people who've been invited to this dinner. And actually, if you look on the television screen just over here, you can see up on the stage, we're a bit too far away at the moment, but you can see those 12 boys. They've come down from Chiang Rai up in the north of Thailand today, and they're being introduced to the crowd. The Thai government's been quite careful to make sure that they haven't been overexposed to the media since their release. They took quite a lot of time in hospital and then being reintroduced to their family, trying to gently ease them back into normal life after their very extraordinary experience. I think if we go down to the front, we can probably get a slightly better view of them. Also, if at any stage anybody watching has any questions, please feel free to ask. We were covering the cave rescue from the very beginning. We were one of the first media crews there 2 days after the boys disappeared. And we saw the whole drama unfold up till 10 days when it was thought that they were lost. I think at that stage, frankly, many people, including their families, were almost on the point of giving up hope. But thankfully, those people inside the caves didn't. They pressed on and they managed to get them out rather amazingly. And again, the rescue itself was an extraordinary operation. And we saw during that period thousands of people giving their time, giving their expertise, many just donating what little they could and trying to help out. There was a huge delegation from the Thai Army, Navy, some of those senior figures we can see here marching in. This is, as I said, an enormous event today. It's been part of central Bangkok's actually been closed off. This is normally a busy thoroughfare heading in the area outside Parliament and Government House, but today it's been shut down. They put out all these banquet tables. A lot of those involved have also been going up to receive certificates for their recognition. You can see here some of the waiting staff. They're distributing drinks and food, and they're dressed up in the clothes of the hill tribes of northern Thailand. Of course, Chiang Rai, far, far away from Bangkok, about as far as you can get, frankly, right on the edge of the border. The caves themselves were very close to the border with Myanmar, in a very remote part. Whoops, sorry, just getting in the way there. If we come up to the stage, the boys came in a little while ago and actually seem now to have moved off, but their reintroduction into society has been relatively slow. They've been kept for the most part away from the media. I think the government said it was very keen after this incredibly traumatic experience that they didn't expose them too much. Of course, many media organizations, both here in Thailand and from overseas, have been clamoring to get access to them. It was a story that really captured the imagination of the world, both for the drama, but also, I think, seeing all of these people coming together and working so hard. And frankly, you know, with stories like this, and I've covered my fair share, I think many of us at a certain point thought that there was very little chance of seeing those boys again. And it is quite miraculous that they're here 2 months later today. They are now somewhere in this melee of people. Rather hard to see them. If we just move forward, I think we can probably get a view. If you look at it, a lot of these tables have guests from the military, as we just said, also Thailand's civilian rescue services. A lot of these people are volunteers. You can see some of them here in the red uniform and the blue uniform there. Those are civilian rescue teams, some of whom were based up in Chiang Rai. There's a gentleman here from the ambulance rescue service. And it was really astonishing to see how many people, more search and rescue people here. A lot of these actually, if you look on the back of this, you can see the Chinese character. A lot of these actually are originally funded by overseas Chinese organizations, and they have been very well established in Thailand as part of rescue efforts. Of course, in a lot of Thailand there is not actually an ambulance service, so a lot of those rescue efforts do rely very much on volunteers. Now, if you come over here, I think we can just see that table over there is where the boys have been settled. I would imagine they've had a pretty busy day today. They've been out at one of Bangkok's largest shopping centres where there's been an exhibition showing some of the tools that were used in that rescue effort, including the submarine that was donated by Elon Musk, which was quite controversial in the end, wasn't actually used. But the boys are all over there. I can't actually see Coach Egg. He's the one he remains in a monastery. I saw him in some of the media coverage earlier today. And we can also see some members of the US military. They were part of a team that came down from their base in Okinawa, and a central part of that rescue team. Of course, that diving team was led by 2 British divers. They don't appear to be here today, but it was very interesting to see how quickly that the cave diving community managed to pull together and get people into this remote part of Thailand. We're going to move away here because I think there's a little bit of concern that the Prime Minister's about to arrive, so we're being gently ushered out of the way. But we'll show you a little bit of the other celebrations that are going on. Lots of civil servants here. They're all enjoying a sumptuous meal of what looks like, I think it's a meal designed to reflect some of the best Thai cuisine of northern Thailand. It is a very different part of Thailand. Actually, we can go and have a look over here at some of the food that's being prepared. It's interesting that during the cave rescue, actually, there was a kitchen put on for a lot of the volunteers and the rescuers by His Majesty the King, and one of the things that the press noted was that there was very good food available, even in some of the trying circumstances during the rain, the mud and the wet outside Tham Luang Cave. We've got some little samples of what looks like deep fried pork and some sausages here with the flags representing some of the international teams that came. Some Thai desserts here. We seem to have some rather large hams. Now, those I don't think are representative of northern Thai cuisine, but I think a little bit on offer today. The sentiment, I think, is that this was very much an international rescue. Thailand, I think, has been expressing. If you arrive in Thailand today on Thai Airways planes, they play a little message from the boys saying thank you for all of their help. And I think people here were very touched by the reaction of the world, the emotional outpouring. I mean, there do remain some very considerable questions. Given the amount of resources that are being poured into events like this, there actually hasn't been very much done in the last 2 months to enhance Thailand's search and rescue capabilities. And of course, Thailand remains a hugely popular tourist destination, but we have seen in recent years some pretty fundamental problems with the facilities that they have. Of course, while this cave rescue was going on, there was also a less successful rescue going on down in the resort island of Phuket, where a boat had capsized, killing more than 50 tourists, most of whom were from China. And there are still some very big questions hanging over Thailand's capability to respond to these problems. Of course, without wanting to put too much of a dampener on today's proceedings, there were big questions raised when this first disaster occurred as to how Thailand would respond. They sent in Navy SEALs who were frankly not very well prepared. There was a very immediate international response, particularly from the cave diving community, who are very tightly knit community with very specialist skills. But I think Thailand was quite lost at a certain stage. I'm just going to quieten down now. They're playing the royal anthem, so we will just be quiet for a moment while somebody's just made mention of the diver who died, the diver Sanam, a former Thai Navy SEAL. He was involved in the rescue team as part of a group of ex-Navy SEALs who went up, again, volunteers trying to do their best. And his death came at a point 2 days after the boys had been found. And at that stage, everybody was full of joy and hope that these boys, against all expectations, had been found. And I think it was felt that their rescue would be something of a formality. But what hadn't quite been understood, I think, by the world watching this drama unfold was just how complicated the rescue was. The diver Sanam, who was exceptionally well qualified, he was a Navy SEAL. He'd gone through all the rigorous training that Thai Navy SEALs had to go through and continued, even though he had left the armed forces, to be very fit. He was a triathlete. He used to participate in triathlon, so he was obviously incredibly fit and would have been very ready for the physical endeavors of the encounter. But he was caught in one of these long passageways that the divers had to go through. He was one of the support team, laying down air tanks so that the lead divers could go in and supply the boys. And I think that, tragic as it was, it sent home to people watching around the world just how complicated the escape was going to be. And we've since talked to some of the divers involved in that, and I think everybody says before they managed to get the boys out, there was a feeling that they would get some of them out, if not most of them, but there were bound to be some casualties because of the extreme risk. These were boys, in some cases, who couldn't swim, none of them could dive, who were going to have to be taken on an incredibly complicated dive through very confined spaces of about 2 hours. And this is, I have to say, as somebody who watched this unfold, it's still quite incredible to me that they managed to get them all out unscathed. And I think it's testament to the skills of those divers that they managed to find a way to do it. They did it in a controlled way. They took 4 out the first day, 4 out the next, and the remainder on the third. And it's hard to find any other word for it, but something of a miracle. But I think that undersells perhaps the skills of those involved and the contribution of everybody here. There is one other interesting question that the cave rescue raised, and that is that 3 of the boys who were stuck in the cave and Coach Egg, it was revealed as the drama was unfolding, were also stateless, as are many people in that area. Since their escape and their rehabilitation back into society, they've been given proper citizenship. But we were up back at Tamalong Cave last week doing a story about those stateless people, and it is a massive problem. There are about 430,000 people in those areas who have no legal status. They have papers that show their place of residence, but they don't have Thai citizenship, even though they were born in Thailand. In some cases, their parents are born in Thailand. And they were, the 4 who came out of the caves have had that problem resolved, but it is a huge problem for many other people in that region. I'm just pausing slightly because the Prime Minister is just on stage, and he's reading a speech welcoming distinguished guests. It says the Royal Thai government is sincerely grateful for your outstanding efforts and expertise in dealing with so many daunting challenges and difficulties. I think the Thai government also very keen to capitalize both on the exposure it got from this story and I think justifiably the response from the rest of the world. The Prime Minister saying there that this rescue operation represents an important event in history. Excuse me, my Thai I'm afraid is not that good, so I'm just reading this off the translation that's being held there. But this is being marketed, I would say, as a United as One event. And I think Thailand's very keen, particularly as it is a country which has been divided politically and in many other ways over the past couple of years. And remember, we are living under a military government at the moment. We have been for the last 4 years. So I think they're quite keen to try and give the impression that this is a Thailand united. This is an opportunity for Thais to come together over this successful rescue operation. And how united Thailand really is, I guess, is open to debate. But going back to that issue of statelessness, this cave rescue did highlight the plight of the stateless issue. Not sure what's going on. I think it's salute here. One has to be aware with Thailand's military government that everything is run with military precision, sometimes rather unnervingly by the military, which is a little unnerving at times, but some vigorous saluting going on over there. But the plight of the stateless people in Thailand has now sort of been brushed to one side as the story has moved on. And that is a bit of a problem, because it's a huge problem for the more than 430,000 people who still don't have visas. We spoke to some boys of around the same age as the ones who were trapped in the cave about their stateless status, and it's hugely frustrating for them. They've been trying for more than a decade to get their papers, and it still hasn't come through. So I think while the Thai government is concentrating on events like this, it has slightly brushed over some of the more uncomfortable realities that the cave rescue exposed. But again, this is a day of celebration. You can see a lot of people are going to be going up through the course of the evening, going to collect these certificates that have been personally assigned to them by the king. He was very involved in overseeing this operation. He made certain donations, the food that went into the volunteers. He was overseeing a lot of the government responses and sent messages of support to the families who were waiting. Ah, yes, we can see one of these ceremonies now, and people waiting to receive their certificate of thanks. And these are members of civil society, civilian bureaucracy from up in Chiang Rai, volunteers, members of the armed forces, some of the foreigners who are involved. And again, this was an international operation, both from the divers who got into the cave, but also the cave explorer Vern Unsworth, who really raised the alarm internationally. He lives up in Chiang Rai and knows those cave systems very well, probably better than anybody else. And he was the first one to really set off the alarm with the international community, and that was a very sensible thing to have done. We did see, when we arrived after 48 hours, a lot of chaos, frankly. I think the Thai authorities didn't really know how to respond. They hadn't had an emergency like this, so they were slightly stumped. Vern managed to point them in the right direction, was pretty deeply engaged with the rescue after that. So it was an international affair, and that international aspect is now being recognized. Well, I think this is going to go on for some time. This dinner, these ceremonial presentations will carry on for the next couple of hours. As I said, we've got 6,000 people here who've traveled mainly from Chiang Rai, but also from here in Bangkok to take part in this event. So from me, Tony Cheng, live in the center of Bangkok at this event, united as one, a celebration of the rescue of the 12 boys of the Wild Boars football coach. And I think everybody here very happy that after covering that event and seeing the drama unfold, that this really 2 months later is a very happy conclusion.